This meeting is being held in accordance with Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, Open Public Meetings Act. Adequate notice has been provided in the manner prescribed by law. This agenda is complete to the extent known, and formal action will be taken. I'll begin with a roll call. Councilman Fisher?
Here.
Councilman Gager?
Here.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Nadel?
Here.
And Mayor Berger is absent this evening.
Is there a need for executive session this evening?
Yes, we have some issues involving not personnel, contracts and the offshore wind project, potential litigation.
We have a motion for exec?
Motion for executive session?
Second.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadel?
Yes.
Thank you.
Going to exec. Time is 7:09 p.m., August 20th, 2024. Now going to reconvene our meeting.
I'll begin with a roll call. Councilwoman Fisher?
Here.
Councilman Gager?
Here.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Nadel?
Here.
And Mayor Berger is absent this evening.
Now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm going to start with a proclamation for International Overdose Awareness Day, read into the record by Krista Riddle, Alliance Coordinator.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I don't think I'm supposed to face you guys, right? Correct? I mean, not that there's that many people there, so I'll face you. Okay, so for International Overdose Awareness Day, August 31st, 2024, the proclamation is, whereas addiction or substance use disorder is a disease that should not be surrounded by shame or stigma that can hinder access to treatment and recovery resources, whereas 107,543 fatal drug overdoses occurred in the U.S. in 2023, and whereas a total of 224 fatal and non-fatal drug overdoses occurred in Howell Township from January 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2024, and whereas 7 out of 10 fake prescription pills seized by the DEA contain a deadly dose of fentanyl, and whereas fake pressed prescription pills that are laced with fentanyl unbeknownst to the user are available to youth and adults online and through social media, and whereas members of the public can save lives by recognizing the signs of an overdose, obtaining free Narcan through Howell pharmacies that participate in New Jersey's Naloxone 365 program, and learning how to properly administer Narcan, and whereas the Howell Alliance remains committed to educating community members about substance abuse prevention, unwanted medication disposal options, and substance use recovery and treatment resources, and whereas International Overdose Awareness Day is recognized each year to remember individuals lost to drug overdoses, to support their families and loved ones, and to reduce the stigma surrounding addiction and overdoses. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Teresa Berger, Mayor of the Township of Howell, on behalf of the Township Council, proclaims August 31st, 2024 as International Overdose Awareness Day in Howell Township, and commends its observance to all citizens. And you'll notice out front here, we have a display of purple flags. We participate in that every year with 50-plus other municipalities in Monmouth County. It is 27 flags to represent the overdose deaths in Monmouth County for the first quarter of 2024. And then there are 2 white flags, and those represent the 135 fatal overdoses in 2023 in our county. So that will be displayed through the end of the month. So thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a presentation by Krista Riddle, our Alliance Coordinator, Captain Rizzo from Howell PD, and John Aguilar from Code Enforcement.
Okay, so you guys want to join me up here? Sure. Thank you.
Good.
No, I'm good.
Here you go. This is just
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just we're going to be speaking tonight about an ordinance in Howell that we've been collaborating on. So again, I'm Krista Riddle, I'm the Alliance Coordinator. I'm up here tonight with Captain Tom Rizzo of Howell Police and John Aguiar from Code Enforcement. And we're going to explain the ordinance and enforcement of the ordinance in Howell that has been quite successful. So I'm going to go first. I'm going to provide the overview to the ordinance to date, just a little timeline, and then I'm going to turn it over to the gentlemen to discuss their enforcement efforts. Okay, so tonight's presentation serves to update our township leaders and the community on Howell Township's cross-department 3-year collaboration to stop underage tobacco and nicotine sales and illegal flavored vape sales in Howell. Howell's proactive dedication to protecting our youth in this area goes unmatched by other municipalities, who are now using our ordinance and its enforcement as a model for their own communities to combat the pervasive youth vaping and oral nicotine epidemic and to take matters into their own hands. First, I will provide an overview of the issue and our efforts from conception through present day, which started with discussions on amending our existing smoking ordinance that dated back to 1974. Our process started as a roundtable 3 years ago and slowly and carefully took life through an immense amount of cross-department expertise, collaboration, discussion, cross-checks, and revisions to get to where we are today. Every detail included in the ordinance was given serious consideration across multiple professional perspectives. After I finish the overview, Captain Tom Rizzo of Howell Police and John Aguiar of Code Enforcement will share their experiences regarding enforcement and issuing summonses for violations. As youth head back to school in a few weeks, we felt it was important to deliver this presentation tonight to increase parental awareness of the ease with which minors can acquire highly potent nicotine and hemp-derived THC products. Thankfully, it is getting harder for them to get these products in Howell. Without the support of our township leaders sitting at the dais, this effective initiative would not be possible. And I'd like to thank Councilwoman O'Donnell and Deputy Mayor Nadell for being dedicated Alliance members, as well as your capacity here. Disposable vape products with appealing flavors, colorful and sleek packaging, discreet designs, trendy names, youth-targeted marketing tactics, and high nicotine concentrates have fueled the nationwide teen and young adult vaping epidemic and nicotine addiction, despite 21 being the legal age to buy any tobacco or nicotine product. These vapes can also contain highly potent hemp-derived THC and other mind-altering substances that can spark addiction and mental health issues in the developing brain, such as anxiety, depression, paranoia, psychosis, and suicide ideation, even with just one use. To protect our youth, the Howell Township Council unanimously adopted the Smoking in Public Places, Electronic Smoking Device Use and Sales, and Tobacco Sales Ordinance in April 2023. The ordinance includes summonses for the following violations: selling, distributing, or providing any tobacco, nicotine, or synthetic nicotine product to a person under 21, selling any form of an electronic smoking device product that indicates a characterizing flavor, regardless of the buyer's age and regardless if the product contains nicotine or other substances. Since April of 2020 in New Jersey, all flavored vape products with or without nicotine have been illegal. And failing to maintain an electronic smoking device retailer and/or manufacturer license issued by Howell Township. The licenses are $1,000 and $2,500 a year respectively, and only allow for the sale or manufacturing of legal non-flavored products. The fines for the ordinance are $1,000 for the first offense, $1,500 for the second offense, and $2,000 for third and subsequent offenses, with the potential for additional action for repeatedly failing to comply with the law. In July of last year, so 2 months after the ordinance was adopted, I conducted 37 initial tobacco nicotine retailer site assessments across town. Illegal flavored vapes were extensively for sale in many of Howell's convenience stores, gas stations, and smoke vape shops. During these visits, I educated electronic smoking device retailers about our new ordinance and the forthcoming enforcement. Informational flyers with a website link and QR code to the ordinance were also distributed. In spring 2024, code enforcement and the police joined me for additional rounds of educational site visits, along with a clear warning to immediately stop selling illegal products. Per the retailer's request, a meeting was also held at Town Hall on March 25th with John Aguiar and Matt Howard of Code Enforcement, Chief John Starro of Howell Police, Township Attorney Caitlin Harney, Norcia, and Township Manager Joe Clark to further discuss the new ordinance and address the retailer's regulations and enforcement questions. Finally, on June 24th and July 31st of this year, the Howell Police, using an undercover officer, conducted 2 sting operations at vape and tobacco retailers in Howell to issue summonses for underage nicotine and tobacco sales, illegal flavored vape sales, and failure to hold a current electronic smoking device retailer or manufacturer license. This after multiple educational site visits, warning letters, a town meeting, and summonses issued prior by Code Enforcement. I will now turn it over to Code Enforcement Officer John Aguiar and then Captain Tom Rizzo to share about their enforcement efforts and outcomes. So we'll have you first, since you went out first.
Good evening. John Aguiar with Howell Code Enforcement, as Krista had mentioned. Before I go and give stats, I'd just like to acknowledge the true collaboration that happened to get this off the ground and to continue to enforcement and the continued enforcement. A lot gets lost by wayside, and not everybody's always acknowledged for their part. I'd like to acknowledge Caitlin Harney, our Township Attorney, who, in addition to holding the meetings, provides legal counsel for myself and PD as we go out and start the enforcement, constantly answering questions whenever we have doubt or are unsure on how to proceed. Diane Festino, whose office relentlessly goes and keeps track of all the licenses that are issued and is quick to let me know once someone is in violation, who hasn't come in, who has promised to come in, and never does. So she does a phenomenal job of that. Council for having the foresight in passing the ordinance that allows us to go after these retailers. Joe Clark, who quietly sits on the sideline and offers his advice and gives us direction whenever we need it. And last but not least, actually, PD, who's been a great help in going out and doing the undercover buys after my initial inspection and visit to the sites. And last but not least, Krista Riddle, who was relentless in making sure that she was on top of every retailer, all the changing laws. It's not easy because on a federal level, it's not always clear what it is that is legal or is not legal. The vape products, weed, all that changes much faster than the laws do. They seem to adapt at a much faster rate than the laws can ever keep up with. So her extensive research and keeping us informed is a valuable asset in being able to do the enforcement to keep the kids safe. So with that being said, as she mentioned, 37 original establishments were identified as selling these vape products. After her first initial visit, Code Enforcement and PD went out to re-educate and to redistribute flyers to let the retailers know that the flavored products were illegal and that there was a licensing procedure that the township had in place where they would need to apply for a license. After that second initial visit, 43% or 16 retailers were still found to be in violation. Those retailers were in violation of either selling product that was not on the approved list or not having the proper license in place to sell the legal product that's allowed. a round of letters had gone out. After that, 3 retailers still remained in violation. 4 summonses were issued in regards to that. 1 business has closed down in town because of the enforcement efforts, and 6 retailers decided not to renew and took all product off the shelf. So with that, Captain Rizzo and his team proceeded to go out undercover buys, and I'll turn it over to him.
Good evening, everybody. Captain Tom Rizzo, obviously from Howell. I have to echo the same sentiment that John said. I've been spoiled for years that, when we have collaborations, when we have support, you then see what happens. I'm spoiled because I work with Caitlin often when it comes from a legal perspective. But when we came together, everybody understood the mission was the same. The strategies were different departments, different strategies, but the mission being the same. And that I think we would all agree there's nobody worth protecting more than our most vulnerable population will be our youth. So I take it personally, and I think everybody else did, Krista specifically, that this is being readily available, not just to our youth, but then people are profiting off of it. So we want to obviously welcome everybody to this town to enjoy a certain way of life, own a business, run a business, enjoy the way of life here, but not to profit off of, destroying the youth. So that's why we took the approach that we did. So we openly say that, and we will meet, that type of obligation with a collaboration of all our departments to be strategic on how we go about that. So what do I mean? Instead of going a criminal route, which we discussed, meaning a criminal charge, we felt it to be more appropriate to put together an ordinance that would be comprehensive, that would address the problem, but would also offer something I believe that we're, lacking in our society, meaning consequence. If you're educated, which we believe in doing first, and then you knowingly go ahead and violate that, there should be a consequence for that type of behavior. So what you'll see in front of you would be the consequence. And then what we did strategically by using our undercover operative was then anybody that would be in violation of it, that they will be heard simultaneously so that you can't evade subsequent offenses that way. So when you do have to go and then face, your consequence and naturally have your day in court to explain yourself, these would be subsequent offenses. So the ordinance was created and drafted that way so that it would elevate as you go ahead and repeat offend if you should desire to do so. So the goal here for us is to do the best we can. We discussed this, we don't ever pretend to be able to eradicate this problem statewide. But I think everybody in this room, we have an obligation to safeguard, the confines of Howell Township, and that was the perspective that we had. So I said this from way back when, from doing, my narcotics days. You can't eradicate the problem completely, but you can make it very inconvenient to do it here. So that was the goal. And that's really what we did. So I have to echo that again from everybody from, my left all the way to the right. Thank you. I say this from the police department. I'm here presenting on behalf of Chief Storrow. If you don't have the support of the administrations, obviously I need first the support of my own administration and the administration of the township. These things won't be possible. We could try, but we won't be half as effective unless we all work together. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Captain John and Krista, look at your report. It's nice to see in this report that there were a lot of places where the sales were denied, where people had gone in.
Yes, sir.
So.
Well, and what you see there as well, so we did a wide range. We discussed that. That was in one of our collaborative meetings where the idea was shared that it wasn't any type of individualized enforcement. This was a totality. So anybody that is offering these things, that was the purpose of education first, both from a code perspective and a law enforcement perspective and an alliance perspective. So we hit you with a trifold. But you're educated first. So from large corporate establishments down to mom and pop stores, because we want everybody to be in compliance the same way.
Great work.
Thank you.
Great work.
Thank you.
One more second and then we'll leave. But I just want to share what Captain Rizzo actually accomplished in those just 2 days. How much did you guys spend versus?
Yeah. One we spent a little over $70, and on the other one we spent just over $80.
So for $150 to do the buys, there were 21 total violations across the 2 days for illegal underage tobacco, nicotine, and flavored vape sales, as well as failure to have the license. $24,000 in potential fines were written. They still have to go to court. There were 15 first violations, 6 second violations. 12 of the violations were illegal underage nicotine product sales, which I take personally. You sold 12 times to people underage an addictive product. 4 of those 12 were second offenses. That person did it twice. Illegal flavored vape sales, 6 violations, 2 were second offenses. And that's not age restrictive. They're illegal to everyone. Electronic smoking device retail license noncompliance, there were 3. 1 was a second offense. And then most of the problems with the underage sales violations were the flavored vapes and the Zyn oral nicotine pouches, just to let the community know what problem we face. But thank you to both of you. You've been amazing, and to everybody over here as well as up here. We are envied by many, many towns for our collaboration and our accomplishments, including this one. So thank you.
May I?
Thank you.
May I? I just wanted to let the community know that several years ago, I remember Krista telling me that she, by herself, was going to stores and keeping a list of naughty and nice and see who was breaking the law. And I said to her, I'm not sure that going by yourself to a store, and then she would actually tell them, you know, you're breaking the law, you shouldn't be selling this. And I'm looking at little Krista, and I'm thinking, I'm not sure that being by yourself is a good idea. But I will say this, that she's always effective. And I remember going back to school nights with her maybe 5 years ago, and she was talking about vaping then to parents and how dangerous one encounter of vaping could be on a hallucinogenic level for your children. So once she bit into that apple, she just never let go until she actually had the PD going and the summons and now court dates. I don't think, I'll rephrase that. I am envious over an employee that takes it to such a level that won't let go until it's finished. You know, she sees it through to the end, and they're still not finished with, you know, regulating and watching. But it's amazing to me how the community really feeds off of her enthusiasm. You know, the PD and our code enforcement council has always been supportive. It's just amazing to me the difference that one group, the Alliance, can make in a community of this size. So we're very fortunate to have her, and more fortunate are the parents that for the children that you've protected. So from the bottom of our hearts, we're very thankful to the entire group for the effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind words.
Yeah, she's in these stores by herself.
Move on to acceptance of minutes, July 6, 2024, July 16th, excuse me, 2024. We have a motion to accept the minutes.
Motion to accept?
Second.
I'm sorry.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Dado?
Yes.
Thank you.
Reports of township officials, Mr. Clark.
So just very quickly, I mean, I think that's a great example of departments coming together in the town. What a bunch of teamwork. I mean, Captain Rizzo, John Aguiar, Krista, they all did an amazing job. So, and especially the parents of these kids are very fortunate to have these dedicated people. So PD, Town Hall, everybody really worked to make it happen. Briefly, by way of update, so our final concert, it was postponed. It's going to be on August 28th. Hopefully the weather is going to be good and we'll have a final successful event. The movies in the park were a success. We've got a few more events coming up for the fall, so keep an eye on our Facebook page. We've got a Fall Fest, our Turkey Trot. I think it's like 3 years running now. So a few more things planned. Paving programs underway. If you've driven down Lanes Mill recently, you can see that that's been done. More to come. We're working on our parks. We just had the rink at Deerwood finalized, so that's been coded. It's ready to go. We're looking into purchasing some nets, trying to figure out how to keep them there so they don't go wandering off on us. So we're going to solve that problem and get them there right away. Oak Glen is going to be next on our agenda, so hopefully this fall, we're going to have the basketball courts resealed, surfaced, painted, and we are decommissioning, as we speak, an old softball field there that will then be turned into our next set of pickleball courts. It seems to have really kind of caught on down in Ramtown, so we've got more coming. The bike trail through Bear Swamp is underway. We're working with the DOT and the railroad to get a crossing in the woods. It's a lot harder than I would have ever thought it could be, but we're getting there. So hopefully we'll have positive news on that. And that's about it.
Mr. Howard?
Just to jump on that one a little bit, next meeting, we're going to do a short public hearing and open space hearing for Soldier Memorial Park. We've been trying for the longest time to have bathrooms there. We know we did the lights, those are done. Bathrooms were always a big staple to that project. We ran into issues with the sewer connection, mostly that the line in the roadway is not holding up well. It's due to be replaced by MRSA in the future, but it was one of those that we didn't want to tap into and create more problems. We've come up with some creative solutions with some trailer bathrooms that might give us the opportunity to do a couple different spots in the park instead of having one centralized location. Should save quite a bit of money. Also doing some shade structures and some storage buildings for the league. So we do have to modify our grant with Monmouth County to that effect. So there's going to be a short presentation next meeting, kind of going over some of those details, but we hope to move that forward and to eventually, for real, get some bathrooms at Soldier Memorial soon. That's all I have, though.
Thanks. Any legal updates?
Just one brief legal update. We recently concluded a case, litigation matter that was filed against our mobile home rent control board. It was an applicant, a mobile home owner, was seeking to increase rents for one of the communities in town. They were seeking a 5% increase. The board decided on a 2.5% increase. That decision was challenged by the applicant. Ultimately, our rent control board was found to be fine. Their decision was based in fact, and that they did a good job. Legal litigation counsel did a great job putting forth our basis on the record. There were attempts to settle, and we just didn't think this was an area where we wished to settle, so we kind of relied on the rent control board's meeting, and it was not found to be arbitrary or capricious, and the 2.5% increase was held valid, not the 5% increase.
Thank you. Diane, any updates from the clerk?
No, nothing.
Move on to open the floor for hearing of citizens and public comments. Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. Sylvia Azred, and I live on 2409 Huckleberry Road in Manchester Township. Although,
You know, could I just pause your comment for a second? Can you read the opening statement, please, Dan?
Oh, thank you. Each person shall first give their name and address to the clerk. The council should be addressed as a collective body and not as individual members. Each person shall have one turn to address the council, and comments shall not exceed a total of 5 minutes. Speakers shall be notified when their time has run, and no time extension shall be permitted. Thank you.
thank you.
Go ahead.
I do live in Manchester Township, but after hearing that amazing presentation about what you're doing here for youth, I am absolutely blown away. I've never been to a council meeting. This is my first. But that is unbelievable work that everybody is doing. And so I am very proud to be an American, not a Howell Township citizen, but part of this amazing country of what everybody is doing for our youth and for everything that you do. So I happen to be here today because recently Howell Township acquired a property at 3071 Lakewood Allenwood Road. So if not all of you are familiar, Lakewood Allen Road meets Brook Road. And there's a corner property where there's like a low building and then a little house, and there's a little gate on the right side. This used to be a preschool, going back a couple of years, and I am looking to open a daycare in the Howell Township neighborhood because there are so many parents that need childcare, specifically with the CHS program, for those that are eligible for it and need to have a daycare that accepts the CHS program, which is very complicated, so there aren't, from my research, enough, and specifically in the Howell Township. So when I was doing a little tour of the area to find a nice plot, I found this little beautiful low building, and I said that is a amazing place for my preschool. Now, I understand that Howell Township does not really enter into private leases, and I also understand that this isn't like maybe something you commonly do, but I did want to ask, if there was any possibility. I don't know, I know that leasing is complicated. You have to post a bid, and you have to make it public and all that. I did ask what the plans were for the Howell Township with this property. I think the answer I got is that it's very, very newly acquired, and so I don't think anyone really knows yet. From what I understood, it's going to be a couple of years before anything is really done with the property. I came up with a wacky, wild idea to ask if maybe I could, borrow the building for a little bit to house my daycare, just until you do decide what you want to do with it. I'll clean it up, I'll paint it, I'll make it good, I'll make it code compliant, I'll fix the gate, I'll make it safe, and then whenever you're ready, you can have it back. I don't know if this is something that you ever heard, but I love the building, and I think it's such an amazing place, and there are so many children that need a place to go, and I thought this was such a cute little place for my nouveau idea that I came up with, and so I don't know if this is something you commonly do or something that's even possible, but I know you can't legally enter an agreement with me unless it's, done like that, but maybe I could, be a custodian to the building temporarily until you have decided what to do with it. There's acres and acres of property. I don't know what your plans are, but that was just my question.
We'll have the administration address your concerns after public comments closed.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time, I appreciate it.
Is there anyone else that wishes to come up and speak?
Years, this is the first time I've been here. Been to many meetings, just never been. Patrick Garaffa, 67 Apple Tree Road. The reason I'd like to just take 2 minutes of your time is this isn't really a township matter, it's more of a county matter. But our attorney was involved in a decision that was made, or I don't even want to call it a decision, I think it might have been more of a suggestion. And what had happened was, it happened during the election, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention and possibly maybe you could offer me some guidance on this. Again, my name is Pat Garaffa. I ran for a county committee position in Howell's District 13. In this primary election in June was the deciding election for these county positions. There were 2 open seats, and 4 people ran for these seats. The 4 that ran were myself, Steve Merlino, Kevin Gorman, and Danielle DiNapoli. The 3 of us reside within District 13, and residency within the district is the primary qualification for this position. Danielle actually lives in District 22. Unfortunately, the error was not caught, and her name was placed on the ballot for District 13. Ironically, she was one of the people that won, even though she didn't live in that district. The county clerk notified Howell of the error after the election. The Howell clerk notified the county Republicans of the problem, and the Howell Township attorney was also consulted. Danielle was removed from the District 13 position and appointed to the same position in the correct District 22, but only because that person had simultaneously resigned. Now the question is this: how do we address the vacancy in District 13? It was suggested by the attorney, and again I want to emphasize I believe it was a suggestion, not a ruling or anything to that effect, that the Republican committee appoint a person of their choosing to fill the vacated seat, and they should address this just like any other vacancy. My position is this is not like any other vacancy, and this person had no business being on the ballot at all. In fact, I'm not even sure she was officially given the position because the error was caught early. So how do you vacate a position that you never officially earned? Had she not been on the ballot, the remaining 3 candidates would have received her votes, and the outcome of the election could have been very different. Bottom line is this: the voters made their decision as to who should represent them. I received the third highest number of votes. If the person who came in second was not supposed to be there, then she should have been disqualified as soon as the error was found. And since it wasn't found until after the election, then the next person in line should be appointed based on the will of the voters and not the wishes of the Republican committee. Instead, the Republican committee wants to choose their own person and ignore the votes. I believe a precedent would be set by going this route. Anytime a candidate is mistakenly placed on a ballot, then the committee now has the opportunity to overrule the voters and appoint some of their own, basically negating the whole vote. That is dangerous ground. I don't want to sound like Donald Trump, a sore loser, anything to that effect, okay? But I think in this particular case, the person that was in place was not supposed to be there, period. Okay, if she stepped aside or was taken aside because she wasn't in the proper role, then the next two highest people getting the votes would have been Kevin Gorman, who was rightfully earned a position, as well as myself. But it was advised by the board or by whoever consulted the county that the way to do it would be to handle it like any other vacancy. And then again, in this case, this is not like any other vacancy. We have no ruling on this. There's nothing in the handbook or to set a precedent. And unfortunately, by doing this, I believe they are setting a precedent. And now they can go back and look at this and say, well, this is how we did it last time. So anytime a mistake is made, we have an opportunity to just overrule the vote, you know, and just essentially throw the Constitution to the wind and make their own decisions. So I'm not too sure if this is something you could guide me on. I just want to let you know, only because our own attorney was involved in the decision itself. And again, I'm not too sure where I'm even going with this. I literally found this out yesterday, and we've just been swapping emails all week with Joe DeBell and a few other guys, and they basically said, oh, well, too bad. Don't be a sore loser. We're going to pick our own people. And that's just not the way it's supposed to be done. Any suggestions? I know I gave you a lot, and I'm asking for an answer right away, and that's not necessary. But
We'll address it after public comments closed. But again, not sure how much
how do we
insight
deal
we
with
can
this
give on
one,
that.
right?
All right.
And again, this is at the county level. It's not even here. So
Okay.
the only reason I'm bringing it to your attention is because members of Howell were involved in the whole thing. So, and my fear, again, is a precedent's going to be set. And if the decision is made incorrectly now, it just could run ad nauseum down the road, and they could do anything they want at that point. Steamroll right. What's the purpose of having a vote? You know, why have an election if you're not going to even abide by the rules? Makes no sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yikes.
Is there anyone else that wishes to come up? Seeing none, may I have a motion to close public comment?
Motion to close.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Does our administration want to address those two concerns, please?
So we'll take the first one first. With regard to the property, we are still evaluating it. Obviously, you know, it's kind of in a critical spot in town. You know, there's certainly road projects that we could utilize that particular piece of property for. So we haven't made any firm decisions in terms of what we want to do with it. And I think if we were to make it available to anybody in the public, we would have to do it by way of lease or sale. So I don't know if we can sort of retain a caretaker for it like that. I just don't see that being permitted under the law here. So we're going to move down the road in terms of what we want to do with it, and there is a possibility we may put it out for lease, but as council is aware, it's a very sort of odd spot in the town right now, and we're kind of waiting to see what else comes down in that area as well. So that's sort of my long-winded way of saying I don't think that we're going to be able to do anything to make that available to the public right now.
We've evaluated the structures. They need some work. I know they're willing to maybe work with us and to make some of those improvements. But the last, like Mr. Clark said, critical spot in town, a lot of different directions that property could go in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Last thing we want somebody to do is invest a large sum of money and then say, we need to take it back. That's not fair. In this case, government moves slow, but this is more so we just don't want to make the wrong decision in haste instead of just, taking our time to make sure we know what we want to do with it.
All right, thanks.
So I'll address your comment, Mr. Garaffa. Yes. So it was me that we were. Yes, yeah, I received your emails today.
Today, I wasn't expecting a response.
No problem. But kind of to go off what you were talking about before, there's definitely a distinction between what the town handles and then what is considered partisan politics. And what you were discussing squarely falls under the partisan politics umbrella, and that's not something that the township will ever get involved in. We will get involved to the extent of elections and certifications, any sort of duties that the municipality has to rely upon. So questions like vacancy, those kind of things are typically questions that, I'll work with the clerk on to make sure spots are filled. So I don't want to get into any of the details of exactly what went on. What we have to rely on is the certification of election results, and that's kind of what I analyzed while giving my recommendation. What I can do is I'll direct you to the statute that I was looking at, and that might kind of give you a further explanation of the rules that likely apply to your situation. So you can run with it from there, but the statute is NJSA 19:5-3.
And it actually addresses
It addresses,
on the ballot incorrectly.
no, but, and that's the situation that we can't get involved in. It addresses when positions open up for county committee seats and when those positions are technically filled. So I think that might be a good starting point for you.
I believe the suggestion that was made was absolutely 100% correct, but it was based on the fact that someone had already been duly elected into a position correctly, lived in a district, then they resigned. Then the suggestion was fill it like any other vacancy. In this particular case, the person had no business even being on the ballot. They didn't qualify for the election. They didn't even live in the district. So technically, they should not have been there. There was a mistake that was made. Now the question is, how do you correct the mistake? So you have to push that person aside, put them back in their own district.
So I understand what you're saying, and we're going beyond what I can really even evaluate and give any sort of recommendations to for our clerk and everything. The extent of what I can do is direct you to the statute I did, so I definitely encourage you to take a look at that specific statute, and then from there, you can see what your options are. But beyond what we've already said, it just boils down to partisan politics, and we can't get involved. Yeah.
Even a township issue. And the only reason I brought it here, because I believe you were involved, and ultimately what's going to happen is they're going to point the fingers and say, this is the advice, this is the legal advice we were given. And unfortunately, it's going to come from you. So whether or not it's correct or not, I don't know. And again, the statute clearly states this is how a vacancy is handled, but I'm confident that there's nothing in the rule book that says this is how we handle this situation when somebody ends up in the ballot and mistakes were made. That's not even in the
So, yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, and we're going beyond to what we're talking about here, so I'm going to have to cut you off now. Understand what you're saying, but understand where we're coming from, and any sort of legal advice I gave is my legal advice to my clerk and the position of, what we need to fulfill from the township's perspective, not necessarily what a county committee needs to follow.
Am I allowed to ask a question, just really quick, or?
Why don't you stick around to the end of the meeting, and then we can talk on the side?
Okay, thank you.
Move on to comments by elected officials. Want to start? Councilman Gager.
Hello, everyone. I have a few things I want to say. Myself and Councilwoman Fisher attended a Zoom meeting yesterday about the offshore wind project. There were 450 people on the Zoom call, and 1,000 had registered for it. It was held, I believe, either in Manasquan or Seagirt. We signed on to it because, as you already know, the proposed line is supposed to come to the Larrabee substation. What you already may not know is that we had no say in that line coming here. That was determined years ago by your state government. We have our concerns about that, namely public safety, environmental issues, cost of it as it's going to be passed on to the public, and disruption to your way of life. The town does not support that. We've already passed a resolution in the past saying that we do not support this. But understand something, if that gets approved and it's going to come here, then we have to make the best deal with them for the town. It's the same thing as the transfer station. We have no say in the approval of the transfer station. What we have approved is a deal with them in case the county approves them. So we're in the same situation here. As far as Mr. Garaffa goes, I know that his situation is going to be discussed at the next county committee meeting. And I agree with him. I do not want to see a person appointed who didn't have their name on the ballot. So that's going to be a discussion at our next meeting. You know, we have county committee people sitting up here. So, you know, one of us could even nominate you when that comes about. So I do agree with you. What does a reasonable person do? No, they're going to appoint somebody who wasn't interested in the position in the first place. And I thank Mr. Clark for bringing up about the concert. One thing about this concert, this band that's playing, I understand, is very good. They're so good that they actually give concerts in Atlantic City that you have to pay to go for. So I'm looking forward to that one. And that's all I have.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes, I do have one thing, and I apologize, Mr. Clark, I haven't spoken to you on the side about this already, but I would like to report that I went to the Howell Library, I'm the liaison, and they have a concern about their roof. I think it's the south side near the parking lot. So I just wanted to bring it up. Maybe it can be, I think the next couple of days are supposed to be decent weather, so maybe somebody can just take a peek, and maybe it's been resolved already. I just wanted to bring it to your attention, especially before winter, because I'm not an expert in roofs, but I do know that problems only get worse in the winter season, so I just wanted to get it to you as quickly as possible.
We'll get DPW out there.
Thank you.
I don't know a lot about them either, but I know they're important, so we'll get it taken care of.
And it's got that crazy roof, right? That's
yeah.
not slate. What is that material?
I don't know. Is
It's
it
on all
10?
of
It might
those
be 10.
buildings.
It might
I mean,
be
it's
like
beautiful,
yeah.
yeah. But I know it's probably just not a regular kind of a roof that's patchable easily. I'm
No,
sure it's going to,
We'll take a look at it, and we'll
Thank
see
you.
what we can, see what it is, so.
thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes, real quick, just so on a positive note, thank all of you and in your departments for what you've done for Howell this summer especially. I got a lot of positive feedback on the pickleball courts. Glad they're coming to this side. Looking forward to that. The rink, very, very good project, very well received, and a lot of positive feedback on the concerts, the fireworks, and looking forward to keeping that going in the fall. So thank you, guys.
Ditto.
Thank you. Yeah, everyone's talking about the concerts, and I just want to acknowledge everyone that helped made our summer events, the concerts, the movies in the park, the fall events upcoming, and help make these things happen. Our administration, but especially Stephen Fetcher, Director of Community Relations, put all this together. Also want to thank our PD for providing security, traffic control for these events, DPW, setup, cleanup, breakdown, EMS workers, first aid on hand for emergencies, and everyone else that had a hand in this. So when everyone else is on vacation, enjoying themselves in the summertime, all of them are out there working hard so we can enjoy ourselves. So just want to acknowledge that and thank everybody.
I will agree 100% with that. I think Steven sweats more during the summer than anybody. I feel bad, but he's done a great job, really great.
And Mr. Garaffa, if you want to talk partisan politics, I will speak to you after the meeting if you want to hang out. Now we'll move on to the consent agenda items. Does anyone want to pull anything to vote separately? May I have a motion to vote on the consent agenda? Resolutions R24-281 through and including R24-319.
I'd like to make a motion to accept resolutions R24-281 through R24-307. R24-319. We have one voted separate.
I'll second that.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Thank you. The consent resolutions pass.
Resolution R24-320. May I have a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 24-320.
Second.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Thank you. The resolution passes.
So we have the ordinances up for adoption under unfinished business. However, Caitlin, do you want to provide an update on that, please?
Yes, some of the farm-related ordinances that we were expecting to vote on passage tonight, the township has received a challenge to them, even though they're not even adopted yet, through the State Agriculture Mediation Program. It's a completely voluntary mediation program. We've decided, it's probably in everybody's best interest if we participate. It'll be an open forum, open discussion. That has been scheduled for September 3rd, so I suggest that we table all of the ordinances related to the farm events until after that mediation, so we can have a clear direction on if we will be moving forward with them or if there needs to be any sort of revisions.
Do we need a motion to table?
Yeah, we should have a motion in a second. We can carry them until, we'll carry them until the September 17th meeting, and if we need to table them again, we can do that.
I'd like to make a motion to table ordinances 24-30 through 24-33.
I'll second.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Thank you.
Introduction of ordinances, ordinance 24-34, ordinance amending Chapter 57, Animals of the Township Code of the Township of Howell to include fines for the running at large of livestock. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to introduce such ordinance.
Second.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ordinance 24-35, an ordinance amending Chapter 188-64 and Chapter 139-31 of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Howell to permit family home daycares in residential zones of the township. May I have a motion?
I move to introduce ordinance 24-35.
Second.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Thank you.
The next regularly scheduled council meeting will take place on September 17th, 2024. Executive session begins at 6 p.m. and regular session will begin at 7 p.m. Is there any other business before council, before we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.